In 1985, the Screen Actors Guild established a separate nonprofit organization to assist, educate, and inspire actors. Working behind the scenes, thanks to grants and donations, and without support from SAG member dues, the Screen Actors Guild Foundation enriches countless lives. They provide financial assistance to union members seeking academic grants, health care, and when times get tough, help with rent and other basic needs. The Foundation's commitment to literacy and social causes reach millions of children every month. And in the state-of-the-art Actors Center, career-focused programs are videotaped, streamed, and archived for generations to come. With your support, this work is only the beginning.
Happy anniversary, SAG Foundation.
Hi, I'm SAG Foundation President and SAG National Board Member, JoBeth Williams.
And I'm SAG Secretary-Treasurer Amy Aquino, along with SAG President Ken Howard.
It's our pleasure to extend a warm online welcome to the SAG membership joining us for this seminar. We're excited to bring you valuable business of acting knowledge in this Life Raft live stream event.
And remember, you're a part of this event. Anytime during the live program, you can email your questions to the moderator at liferaft@sagfoundation.org or tweet your questions using the hashtag LRLS. And let us know your first name and your city, too.
When you have finished viewing this Life Raft event, please make sure to fill out the anonymous online survey on the viewing page.
Your feedback is crucial to the growth of this innovative program.
Before we dive in, it's important to note that the SAG Foundation is a non-profit organization funded solely by grants and donations, not by Guild membership dues.
So, if you would like to help support the Foundation's dedication to assisting, educating, and inspiring actors, go to the SAG Foundation website and click on the pink Donate Now button on the right-hand side of the page to make a tax-deductible gift.
Now, sit back, relax, and take notes.
And in case you miss anything, each live stream seminar will be archived in the SAG Foundation video gallery.
Thanks for joining us. The SAG Foundation
And the Screen Actors Guild are moving you full stream ahead.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Simon Anthony Abufadel, the Life Raft Program Director at the SAG Foundation. Welcome to tonight's An Evening with Television Casting Directors. A warm welcome to our online audiences all across the nation. Welcome our SAG members. And I also want to thank the Screen Actors Guild and the Screen Actors Guild Foundation for this wonderful Full Stream Ahead partnership, as well as your local branch executives for helping launch this also. And a couple quick disclaimers and we'll get going. Any view that is said by any of our panelists tonight doesn't necessarily mean an endorsement on the part of the Screen Actors Guild or the Screen Actors Guild Foundation. So take all the input you're getting, the wonderful input you're getting tonight with a grain of salt, make up your own mind, and here we go. Our first guest tonight, I'd like to introduce Rick Pagano, who's been with us before. Please welcome Rick, who casts 24 picket fences, has cast picket fences, Millennium. Mostly cast features and has 2 wonderful pilots in process right now. Please welcome Rick Pagano. Our next guest has cast Stargate Universe, Dead Like Me, The Minor Accomplishments of Jackie Woodman, and Jeremiah. Please welcome Paul Weber. Howard Meltzer is on the way. He's running a bit late. He cast Hannah Montana, Extreme Makeover, Home Edition, and I'm in the Band. So he'll join us as soon as he arrives. It's that LA traffic. I'd like to welcome our moderator for tonight, who is an all-star. She has moderated so many Screen Actors Guild Foundation events, I can't even count that high, and I've been through college math. She's basically on every network television show as we speak. Please welcome the fabulous Lee Garlington.
Is it on? Oh, it's on. Hi, welcome everybody. Come on, you got to respond. Hi, there you go. We got to get some liveliness here. So you all know that we have questions that are being sent in via email, and Simon dances around the edges. So whenever you have a question, you bring it up here. If I think you're cute, I'll ask the question of the casting directors. That's just the way it works. So we want to welcome these gentlemen. Thank you so much for giving your time. And one of the things we like to start with, my philosophy is if you are a journeyman actor like me and you don't become a movie star or a television star, the casting director is your best friend. This is the person you want to have on your side. This is the person you want to have call you in on a regular basis. And one of the things I do the orientation for the new members of the Screen Actors Guild, and I always say you never want to make a casting director look bad because they want to know they can count on you. Would you agree with that, the people you call in regularly? Okay, you're going to have to be a little more verbal.
Yes.
Come on. Jeez, Louise, you're going to make me work
What do you think,
for
Paul?
it now, aren't
Yep.
you?
Yeah.
Okay, I have John Wayne and Robert Mitchum here with me. Good. This is going really well so far.
I have not had enough martinis yet to be Robert Mitchum.
So, you know, can you tell us specifically things that your office likes, doesn't like? I mean, we always find different places say, you know, always bring your headshot, never bring your headshot, you know, don't dress like the character, do dress like the character. Do you have any overarching, is that the right word, philosophies about what you do and don't like in your office when you're casting a project?
Well, most breakdowns are electronic now, so we just put notes depending on the project of what we'd like to see. I like hard copy picture and resumes, extra copies. For me, I know it's really old school and everything's submitted online, but I always like the actors to bring in extra headshots just so I have a record of that. And sometimes I have old-fashioned producers or directors that come in and they like to take them home with them. So I ask for that. And if there's anything specific regarding a role or what I'm looking for, I'll mention it. But nothing terribly consistent except park in the Century City Mall because we don't validate, and bring your picture.
And you've cast mostly television?
Both, but I work with MGM Television, so I do all of their television work.
And now, when I first met Rick, he was actually casting at the Taper back in, I think it was 1904, like somewhere around then. And
Just after the War of Independence.
there you go. And what do you find would be like one of the hallmarks, the difference between casting for theater, casting for television, casting for film? Because I know you've done all of them. Is it kind of all the same bailiwick, or I'm just throwing words in here. I don't really know what they mean.
No, it's good.
but I'm
It's
just throwing
good. I
them
think
out. Yeah.
Feature films have changed over the years, but this is about television. So I'll just make the feature film. I'll just say one quick thing about feature films, which is that you can be a little bit more offbeat. You can make choices that are less stereotypical. You can be a little bit different and odd, and we can be more asymmetrical in our casting in feature films. In television, there is more of a tendency to want to see the face and the type pretty immediately because you only have 48 minutes to convey a lot of storyline. And so, in general, the producers and directors want to see people who are really more on the mark. When it comes to pilots, when it comes to both auditions for episodic and auditions for pilots, one of the things that I think a lot of people don't realize is that it's a live act of theater. The room gets really quiet when I say that. When you go in for a network test, and it's funny, one of the pilots we just did, Jamie Tarsis, who used to be head of ABC, said it, and I've been saying it for years, but no one believed me, and then Jamie said it, and it validated everything. And that is that it really is a live act of theater. You're in a room with about 20 people, and we may videotape it, but we rarely look at the videotape. Mostly we make a judgment based on what you guys are doing in the room. And so if you do work that doesn't carry, usually to the back row, because that's where the president of the network is, And I'm not saying to send it out to the rafters, but if you don't do work that carries in the room, you often don't get cast.
I just had one of the things too that I find is happening now a lot is you go into I just had an almost network experience where you go through the producers and then you read with the TV star who's now the lead, and then you go to the studio and then you go to the network, and oftentimes you get so far and then you get cut out. And my philosophy is, hey, if you're going past the first audition, it's a win. But I feel like one of the things we as actors, it's hard to sort of wrap our minds around, is that they're painting a picture that we can't quite see, in terms of, well, does this color fit over here with this shade and this nuance? And sometimes you can be the most spectacular actor, but you're not going to fit in with, the palette that they have. Can you speak to that a little bit? Because I don't have a question.
Then I'm not sure I have an answer. Well, I'm not sure exactly
Well, do you
what that
find
question is.
like there are times when the best actor for the role is not necessarily going to get the part because they don't really fit in with
Sure,
the whole?
and even during a pilot, the process changes too. We're sometimes looking for one thing at the beginning of the process, and then all of a sudden there's a change down the line, and someone who we fell in love with at the very beginning isn't any longer in the running.
And is that because of something usually they've done, or the whole process?
Many times not. It's just sometimes the process of the change of the character, or even a plot line, or the producer, director, creators decide to go a different way mid-process, and it has nothing to really do with you. And in fact, most of this doesn't seem many times to have anything to do with the actors, as long as you're doing a great job of auditioning in the room. And that's what you guys need to take with you, is you need to come in, do your job, do the best job you can, and then move on to the next project, because there's so much you don't have control over. The only thing you do have control over is what goes on in that room in that moment, and hopefully you feel good about what you did and move on. And I know Rick had mentioned a little bit earlier, we touched on television and film and the difference there. I find when I'm working on television, directors and producers are not interested very much in your process. They're interested in the results. And
you or the actor?
We're
or both?
interested. Well, the producers and directors, especially the director for television, seems to be interested in getting it sort of on the nose and getting the results, rather than seeing what the process is, which is maybe what Rick can speak to in terms of film. And the times that I've worked on film, I like the process of film as well too, because it is a process there, and directors tend to be a little more accommodating toward actors and their choices, whereas you need to come in and nail it in
the
television.
director really doesn't matter usually. It's the writer producers. The directors are hired guns just like we are. Yes, I mean, with rare exceptions.
But also the director's got to deliver the goods in episodic in 7 or 8 days. It used to be 8 days, now more often it's 7. Yeah. So the director doesn't have a lot of time to direct an actor in a performance. They need the performance to be there the moment the actor or actress walks in.
And I find too, one of the things too is I can pretty much cry on cue. You can watch me aging from age 28 to 127 crying on cue. And what do you say to like an actor? It's a crying role. If they come in and they're not full, you're just not going to get it? I mean, a situation like that where you're not in the given circumstances, you have to create the given circumstances in a 3-minute increment. Do you have any things like that? I mean, I know you can yell and scream usually when you want to, but crying sometimes takes a certain amount of effort or skill.
Well, I think they need to come in with it. When I've had auditions for actors where dramatically they need to be at a certain level, the last thing I want to see is actors in the green room chatting and talking about the Macy's sale and where the cheapest price for Botox is, and I want them to be able to an actor.
And that's just the men,
right? Yeah, I had a project where there was a crying scene on page 2. I mean, she had to break down, and she actually the actress who got the role was out in the hallway, and she came in. I didn't really even introduce her. I just gave her a picture to the director, and I knew that she was in that moment in the zone, and she began the scene, and she was already emotionally connected to the material. She wasn't a magician. She didn't turn it on, you know, which can be brilliant when you see an actress do that, but you think it's magic at the same time and not good magic. She came in just organically and created this, and that's what you need to do, depending on what the project is.
What do you find generally when you're casting a television show? What is more difficult? Is it the writers and producers who are too demanding or don't know what they want? I mean, like when I go in a room and I see 8 of me, I know I'm in the right spot. When I go in and there's the 23-year-old Korean boy, the 90-year-old African-American woman, and me, then I know they don't know what the heck they're looking for. They're gonna, you know, throw the spaghetti against the wall and see what hits.
Well, this relates to your earlier question. Imagine the Arabs, the Israelis, and you're mediating. That's what we do. The answer is that everybody's got a different idea about what they want. And so we were talking earlier about how what happens if you go in for a role and you don't get it. You were saying you got to a certain distance and then you fell out and you weren't sure why. Well, an hour after we put out a breakdown for the pilot that we did, they decided that they wanted to go in a completely different direction. An hour after, you know, they had tortured over the breakdown, we finally released it. We announced several times, and then we said, we're releasing the breakdown, and we released it, and then an hour later it completely changed. And so you can't know. The most important thing you can do is walk in, be the host of the party, don't be the guest, walk in, that's way too long an explanation, I think.
Own the space.
Own the space, the way the host of a party owns a space. Because you have to understand that when you walk in, we all look like we ate something really bad, we'll just say. And that's not because of you. You guys have a tendency, actors always have a tendency to take it on. If someone looks like, if a casting director looks like he or she's in a bad mood, it has nothing to do with you 99% of the time. But most actors, 99% of the time, presume that you've done something wrong. What we need most of the time is for someone to walk in and go, hey, how you guys doing? You need a cup of coffee? You guys look like you could use a cup of coffee. You okay? Everybody okay? I'm going to make your day. I'm going to play in the sandbox for 2 minutes. And I'm going to make you forget that the producer just yelled at you or that the studio is unhappy that you haven't brought in 9,000 people. So that's the first thing you need to remember, I think.
So you have it from Rick Pagano. Next time you audition, please bring a pitcher of margaritas
Yes.
with you and cups to hand out.
And a sandbox.
No, I mean it's not about bringing in. It's not about literally bringing in a cup of coffee or bringing in anything. It's about an attitude. It's about the way you walk in the door. You have to walk in the door with your good mood. Don't take on their crap when you walk in because they need you to walk in a good mood.
Would you agree with my statistic that 75 to 90% of the time, the person or persons who are going to decide whether or not you get this job are not actually in the room anymore?
If the casting director is the only person in the room, then that's true. But
No, but even if there's writers and producers, it always seems like they put it on tape because there's somebody else that's going to look at it.
Yes, but in my situations, we decide in the room whether or not anyone else is going to look at the tape. We decide in the room
Bring
whether or
the
not you
pitcher
go
of
further.
margaritas for the casting director. Sorry.
No, you're right, but it doesn't really matter. And you guys should be thrilled if you come to the room and there's just the casting director, because many times we have our producers in Canada or outside the country or somewhere else. We don't have them that often, and that means that I can have a little more time maybe to work with you guys rather than you have to come in and then you get to see 4 or 5 people, but you may only get to see them for one take. And when you're with me, we can play a little bit. And just the stakes are just as high, but the temperature in the room is lower.
One of the things, too, I know I tend to memorize, but it's not because I'm trying to. If I look at something 3 or 4, God gave me this incredible short-term memory to compensate for the complete lack of long-term memory. But what do you have any thoughts about that? I mean, is the person who sits like this and the whole time as likely to get it as the person who tends to be a little more, quote-unquote, off-book?
Really good actors don't do that. Do that again? Really good actors don't do that. She's a great actress, by the way. But good actors, I don't mind. I used to mind. By the way, Rick, my first job in this town, he doesn't remember, but I was your intern at the Mark Taper with Sharon Bialy. So, and I came from a theater background. I always thought that actors had to have everything memorized. And the more I do this, especially in television, it doesn't matter to me if you have the script in your hand, as long as you're familiar with it, you use it as a tool, but a tool that works, that you can work with, that we're not aware of, because here's a hint. Camera is cutting you off right about here anyway, so if you just hold that script slightly under frame, we don't even see it, and most of the directors and producers, they don't look at you much anyway, especially in episodic. They're looking at the monitor. They say, hey, nice to meet you. And then they don't see you again until you leave. So you just need to be really familiar with the material, and if you memorize it, that's fantastic. But what I worry about is if you guys memorize it and then by page 5 of 6, you go up, and we've got to start all over again, and we've got 30 actors waiting in the waiting room, we'd rather you have that script in your hand.
Or if you're starting to go up and we see your eyes start to do this, and we can't tell if it's a character choice or if you're just forgetting your lines. There was a concept during the Italian Renaissance called sprezzatura, and it was this notion that in the courts of Italy, you were supposed to be able to recite a poem. And the key was effortlessness, the key to the whole thing. And I believe that actors need to walk in with that same concept of sprezzatura. They need to come in with the concept of effortlessness, which is that you come in prepared. You don't have to necessarily be off book. And I suggest most of the time don't drop your sides, because when you drop your sides, that's usually when you go up. But the key would be to keep your sides here. If you need them, they're right there. If you don't know them well enough to be somewhat off book, the thing I would recommend, could I borrow your sheet? I see a lot of actors read like this because they're sitting down. And so in order for them to relate, they have to do this and they do this. And all you have to do is that, not this. This does not work. If we can't see you, we don't hire you. But if you can do this, then instead of having to do this all the time, all you're doing is reading like this. And so it's just much easier. There's a logic to this, in other words, right? That's my opinion about it.
I had another brilliant question, but it just flew out of my brain. So I'm going to ask some of yours. What a good idea. Somebody, I can't read the name, wants to know, as an elder actress, do you think roles for us are increasing or decreasing, and for the not famous? I love you, whoever you are.
Rick?
They're decreasing. It's not good news.
That's why I wanted you to deliver that.
Yeah, but I'm doing my 3rd theatrical job this year, so they're still there. It's
You're a famous actress, Lee.
No, I'm not. I'm so not a famous actress. That's the point. I mean, if you become, I think you can continue to work. And my God, the baby boom generation is going to be at an age they're going to start wanting to see more of themselves on TV. Am I right? Hello, knock, knock.
I hope so. I think the statistics are that it's tougher for women, especially of a certain age, to get work. But God, at the same time, there seems to be more and more strong female-driven series out there as well too. And when I watch television, some of the best series have great female
Nurse
leads.
Jackie.
Yeah, and of
There you
course
go.
some of them are established, actresses obviously, but there's some great female-driven series.
Do you
these days.
think that television is ever going to learn the secret that television makes stars but doesn't do very well with stars when they come back to take over the shows? Seriously, that seems to be a lesson that it's like how many people we know got famous off a TV show, they come back and series after series after series bombs.
Some of them don't.
You are
and
so
not
deep.
that I disagree with you. I agree with you, but some of them do well, like Kiefer Sutherland in 24, or.
But he wasn't made famous by television. He was a movie star. That's
he was already
different.
yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying, like a TV star.
Yeah, like the stars of Friends or Seinfeld
Right.
or other shows.
Yeah.
It's never going to take the golden ring and go on your yacht. That's my philosophy. All right. Do you bring in actors from small agencies or managers who don't have major TV credits for co-star roles? And do you open submissions by agency or actors look? I don't know what that
I looked at 4,000 pictures and resumes for the 2 lead roles on each of those pilots I just finished. When we were doing picket fences, we used to have messengers that would come by at 6:30, 7 o'clock, and Debbie and I would sit there in the outer office opening up, trying to get people on the phone because the Gersh agency had canceled all their clients at 6:15, and the session was falling apart. And we'd ask the messengers, have you ever been an actor? Don't leave, don't leave, don't leave. So yeah, I mean, of course, if we're, it doesn't, there's no like subscript on the screen. Oh, this actor is represented at ICM. If you're a good actor, we want to hire you. We don't care where you're from. We don't care whether you have an agency or not. The only reason why agents have a tendency, the top agents have a tendency to get their clients in is that there's a tendency for us to believe that their taste in actors tends to be good more often than not.
And for co-stars and supporting roles, absolutely. We do go to the smaller boutique agencies, good stage actors, good co-star actors on the way up. That's where we'll go because, for the simple reason that ICM is never going to submit those people. But that's the next generation of guest stars. We hope come from that.
Do you ever not call in an actor because you hate his or her agent or manager?
No. No, I've heard those stories before, but if there's an actor that I really like,
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter, to me.
Call them at home.
Howard is fine, but he won't be joining us because he's just been arrested. I'm sorry. No, he had a car accident and his car was towed, so he won't be able to be here. All right, we have a question here from the internet, or as George Bush would say, the internets. What is the best way to become a member of SAG? Also, what's the best website to look for auditions? Let's go with that one. What's the best website to look for auditions in my local area? I don't know if this isn't casting director material, is it? How much of an input does being with the quote-unquote right manager or agent have in getting in the room for a big project?
Again, I think it's all relationships. Casting directors come to trust managers and agents that they've worked with over the years, and they're go-to agents and managers that I will call all the time when I'm stuck on something. So I think it has to do with that. Just because they're with a big agency, I mean, sometimes you get a junior agent who's covering you, and you have to tell them about their clients, who they are, and even what they're doing. They'll pitch someone, and I'll say, well, they're not available. They just got a pilot. They should know that. But they're junior agents, and some of them have MBAs. They don't come from necessarily a theatrical background. Many of them are very good, but again, it tends to be relationships with casting director agents and managers that we work with quite a bit, that we respect, who keep delivering good talent to us.
You're not going to like this analogy, so I apologize in advance. But you ever go to a restaurant and you say to the waiter or waitress, "What's good?" and he or she says, "Oh, they're all good." That's kind of how it is sometimes with certain agents and managers, where you say, "Well, here's what I really need. Tell me the people that are really right for this role." And there are some agents who will say, knock out this person's not right, this person's not right, this person's too green, whatever. But you should see these 3 people. Those are the people we'll trust. And in fact, once upon a time, there were actually agents who would say, I don't represent this person, but you should audition so-and-so. That actually used to happen. It doesn't happen. It was great. It
happened a couple.
It still
couple
does
days
happen
ago for me.
It actually still does. It still does happen once in a while, but you have to have a great relationship with an agent.
Well,
so yeah, we trust. Those are the people we love because they're the people who aren't trying to just sell us every single actor that they represent.
That agent did that to me, and then he also said, and put in a good word because I'd like to sign him.
I also tell new actors that the idea in agent land is not to be the little tiniest fish in the biggest pond. Having ICM at the top of your resume means absolutely nothing if they don't know who you are and they don't remember your name and they don't submit you. Your agent's job is to get you in the door, and your job is to get the job. In fact, that's the job in Hollywood, is to get the job. Also, I also feel my experience is that to tell actors not to be discouraged if you can't get the casting director to come see your play or look at your tape or what have you, because it's the assistant to the assistant of the casting director who's going to walk in at the last minute, put your picture on top and say, hey, you really ought to see Simon Anthony Abu Fidel for this job. It's that kind of a thing.
Yeah, the assistants want to be heroes too. And sometimes they can move up the ladder by finding someone. So it's not always the casting director that's the most important person for you to meet.
Kim from Woodland Hills wants to know, how does a 40-something newer actress get into a casting office? Remember the margaritas? Just saying. No. Any thoughts?
I still go see plays, and I see showcases. I know that's sort of cold comfort for a lot of folks. Doesn't seem like enough, and I don't think there's a silver bullet here, and there's one particular way to get seen. You just have to get yourself out there, and hopefully in some sort of high-profile theater piece that we'll go see, so that we can be aware of your talent. If you don't have a lot of credits and you're in your early 40s, or mid-40s, it is certainly more challenging because there's so many wonderful actresses who have lots of credits who are vying for those roles. So you just need to do something. Live theater is probably the best way, or get your own project. Now people are making their own webisodes, they're creating their own content, they're collaborating with each other creatively. They don't have to be 18, 20-year-old kids doing this. It could be, older actors as well, too, creating their own content, getting involved in short film festivals, anything. There's so much of that going on now. We always like to discover a new face in this business. We kind of lament having to go sometimes to the same old actors all the time for pilots and series. We like to discover someone new. So there's always an opportunity if you're talented and have a lot of initiative out there.
Do you feel that for some people who may be young enough, talented enough, beautiful enough, that they should not take every job that comes along, they should carve out a career, and that anytime they move, their agent and their manager and their guru and their therapist and their publicist are all moving with them, but that generally it's about work begets work, that if you start working, then you have a better chance of continuing to work?
I think you say yes to everything when you're first starting out.
You do? Really?
I think so. When you're just starting out, you want to do independent films, short films, theater, whatever you can get your hands on. And then once you start building a career based on some experience, then you certainly would be more selective.
But then if you think of somebody like a Meryl Streep who did one tiny little part in Julia. Remember that one with Vanessa Redgrave? That one, Then she was in the one with Dustin Hoffman, and then boom, she's a movie star. I mean, there are those people who seem to do boom, boom, boom. Their career goes like that.
There's, didn't Michelle Pfeiffer do a soap? There are people who do soaps, and you think, oh, they're going to do a soap. They're never going to move beyond that. And then
don't you feel like a lot of those restraints have gone away in the last 10, 15 years, that you can cross over now from television to film to? It doesn't seem to be the same, oh, you're pegged as a TV actor. I mean, it's a whole different thing now.
Well, you can sure cross over from film to television now.
Yes.
That's what a lot of actors are doing. But
here's an interesting question. What is the one thing that you would like to see change about the casting process, whether or not you have control over that one thing? Just remember, this is live. Don't think too long. Think fast.
Well, I really like what the internet has brought to us, but at the same time, you said you saw 4,000 submissions. I put out a breakdown. I got 2,700 submissions. It's so easy now to click a mouse. Your agent can just buckshot dozens of actresses or actors for one role. There's no selectivity much anymore. It's up to us then to sort of go through all those submissions online and separate the wheat from the chaff and try to get a handful of actors that we might want to see that we don't know. So I wish that, that actors or agents would be a little more selective and discriminating, just like the old days when they would actually have to submit a package of pictures and resumes that they would handpick of the best actors they thought would be right for the role.
I have an answer for that. Fewer executives. And the casting director should make all the decisions. Actually, there you go. Right. No, fewer executives and better photographs from actors.
By better, do you mean more accurate?
Photographs that are taken by people who love you. Listen carefully. Photographs by people who love you and who understand the uniqueness of who you are. Not headshots, because the headshots that all look the same don't convey anything except something extremely generic. And we can't tell who you are based on the photographs that 90% of the people send us. They all look the same. And the society is telling you, and the agents and managers are telling you, that those photographs are what get you auditions. And they're not.
Is there a lot of quote-unquote safety auditions that happen, meaning you audition lesser unknown actors but may already know that they are already looking for a name actor?
Oh, no, that's never happened to me.
The way it works is
Of course.
every role, it doesn't matter if it's 2 lines, is offered to a famous person, and then they come audition you.
Yeah, but that's just the reality, and that's part of the process, and you still get a chance to get into the room. And if we don't know you, or if we're auditioning you, sure, it's sort of backup. The reality is, a name is probably going to anchor that project, but God, we still have an opportunity to meet new actors and think of you for other projects or this project. It may be a different role. So sure, that's kind of the reality, and it's exciting to go in and go out for a lead in a project, and sometimes it does happen. Once we anchor that role, I mean, we just did a Stargate Universe when that series got launched. Once I attached Robert Carlyle to the series, basically the network said, for the most part, go out and find a bunch of relatively unknown younger actors for those roles, and those are lead roles for a television series, and I had sort of carte blanche to go all over the place, and actually found an actor who didn't even have a SAG card, who's a series regular, who a Juilliard grad, but he didn't have a SAG card, and he hadn't done any television or film, and that's really gratifying.
Was that fun, too?
That was great fun.
Yeah, I'll bet.
I have a friend, a very good friend that's been in a couple of my plays, who told me a story about going to an audition, and while she was auditioning, with the associate, the casting director was in the room on the phone making an offer on the role that she was auditioning for.
That's cold.
Now that, and by the way, I don't think that's, whoever that casting director was an idiot, I think. But that actress is now the female lead on a little series called Castle.
Nice.
So she got work. So you go through the tortures of what you do, and if you're talented and you keep going, then good things happen eventually.
Here's a nice one from Tara from Berkeley. What's the best way to establish and maintain a relationship with you? How do we stay on your radar? I like that question. But you've completely stymied them.
It's not an easy thing to do, because there are a lot of actors. Los Angeles is the Olympics, the equivalent of the Olympics. Everyone from all around the world comes here to be an actor. There is no other city in the world like this. It's a pretty exciting place to be. But from the point of view of the numbers, it's pretty hard for us to remember everyone all the time. So you send a postcard, you make a phone call, you stop by,
We have an irate one from Joseph in Hawaii. Why do casting directors call in talent from LA for small day player parts that could be filled with local SAG union members here in Hawaii? Hawaii has talent, and it's about time we are recognized for our talent. I am speaking about many shows and movies that are filmed here. I can't believe there's day player parts that are.
We do. Are you kidding? There's
Yeah.
there's not a studio in town that would. We just finished doing something that's shooting in Atlanta, and we were forced to cast a lot of people in Atlanta, even though the acting talent pool was not nearly as good as the talent pool here. We were, in fact, told several times by the producers that the talent pool in Atlanta was very limited in comparison to Los Angeles. Not a surprise, but because of the budgetary restraints, we had to cast most of the cast out of Atlanta. So it happens all the time. I'm surprised to hear that question.
At the same time, and I think most smaller roles have to be cast because of budget concerns locally, but we hold our breaths out here when we have to look at local casting tapes. I just think that everyone listening out there in Topeka,
Very careful now. Very careful.
well,
tread lightly.
I'm serious. You guys, the actors out there don't have access to some of the best teachers and some of the best training that you all do here. I mean, you guys are developing your careers here with the best support you could possibly find in the world for television, film, and training. You don't have that out there. So sometimes we're disappointed with the level of actors we see out there.
Yeah, it's like the crews. Think about talk to the crews that are here in Hollywood, that are being shut out of productions that are shooting in Michigan and Georgia and Louisiana.
Because they have very smart governors in those states.
Yes, but this city still has the best crews. Yes, this city has the best crews, maybe in the world, and there are a lot of guys not working.
Yeah.
It's a similar situation.
But just actors out there, just raise your game as much as possible. Come in, try to learn to audition as professionally as the actors do here, and I think we would be more comfortable hiring locally. We'd prefer that, but we do hold our breaths out here, and we sometimes do have to fly in actors that we'd prefer not to.
Where's Kevin? Kevin Ashworth. I just want to see your hand. Hi, Kevin. I love your question. Can you tell us about the current state of the quote system? Remember quotes?
I don't hear that. I don't even ask sometimes for quotes anymore. Doesn't really matter. Maybe you do. I work on films too. Sometimes on a film, I don't even care to know what the quote is. I'll just let them know what our budget is, and if the role is interesting enough for an actor, I think quotes are maybe coming down a bit, quite a bit now, all across the board. Television, even. If you're doing a cable show, top of show quotes are lower than network quotes. Sometimes that's all I can offer, and actors tend to don't love it, and the agents don't love it either. But they're taking them. They're taking those jobs.
I'm going to tell the lovely young lady in front that quotes are any amount of money that you get above the day rate or the week rate or whatever it is you can get. And if you do a number of pilots, your quote goes up. And I'm working my third day right now tomorrow, and I have a day quote. And I'm at a place where if they don't pay me my day quote, I'm not going to do the job because I just don't care that much. So it's like that. If you don't care, they're going to pay it. If you care and you need the job and the money, you're not going to get your quote. That's just the way it works. Would you agree, Mr. Picano?
I think it's a little depressing. The late wonderful actor John Spencer, who was on West Wing, I cast him in a movie once, and he had a quote of $20,000 or $30,000 a week, and the production company was offering scale plus 10, and I just found it appalling that we would dare to tell someone who had worked 30 years to work up his quotes, and their idea was, well, that's a lot of money. Well, it's a lot of money. How often does most actors don't get to work 52 weeks a year. So, if he's lucky, he was getting 6 or 7 weeks at that rate per year at the time until he got West Wing. Luckily, that's what's great about television now, is that TV is a more consistent
and generous
source of income for actors than feature films were. Quotes mean less in television, I think, a little bit, only because there's the usual top of show, and once in a while, if someone's somewhat well-known, they will break the top of show for the right actor. But most of the time, guest stars are getting paid top of show.
Although, except if you are doing one day. And
If
you
you're
have to
doing-
cry
yes,
for 12
if you're
hours.
doing
They
one
have
day.
to pay you more. I'm sorry. That's
Right.
just the way it is. Sarah, the cameraman, wants to know, how do you feel about an actor going into the scene as soon as he or she walks in without saying hello? I would think, dude.
Depends on the scene.
Depends on the
If it's a
scene.
really intense scene, it's fine. If it feels a little overcooked in terms of the intensity, then usually we feel like there's some. It's like people who turn away from us to prepare and do this moment, and then turn into the scene. Sometimes it just feels a little bit more actory than it needs to be. It's like anything else. If you show up at the door of a date and you're in a tuxedo on your first date, it may seem a little bit inappropriate. It all has to do with what's appropriate.
And when you drop off that date and say, scene, you don't want to do that either.
Paul is getting all the good lines tonight.
Although I will tell you that if I have 3 scenes and one of them is the crying scene, and I really have to be crying because it says right there in the script, stop crying, like you have to be crying. I will tell the casting director, like 2 or 3 people before me, by the way, when I go in, I'd like to do scene 3 first, and could we do the introductions after? And I've never had anybody say no. Then you get to go in, you're full, you do the part that's the hardest, and then you can go back and do the easier stuff.
Great advice.
Yeah.
Also, this is a little thing for me that I find just maybe my little peccadillo. I think that's the right word this time. Like when I go in and it's 2 people and there's only one casting director, but you're like really mad at this person and you're telling this person to be quiet. Like it's 2 different things. It drives me nuts. I don't know how to look at the same person and do that. It's like I need, and I will usually, if there's a camera operator, you don't want to usually pick on the producers, but I have a tendency to say that, would you mind if I look at you for the other person, even though I know this person is going to do all the talking, the casting director here, but I have to look at 2 different people. Is that me just being stupid, or does that make sense?
You just have to find a logic for yourself, I think. Some people, and we don't mind certainly I don't mind if you're looking at me when if you're doing a scene, you can certainly do that. And just find another way to find a second person to talk to. A lot of times the producers and directors don't mind if you look at them either, unless you're doing something where I'm going to kill you,
Here's a good question. Now that the television new shows are AFTRA and don't say that, and old shows / films are SAG, the actor has to work twice as much to get benefits. Are you looking down on guest star actors that are now doing co-star work just to survive?
No. I mean, I it's so tough out there, and I think what's sort of artful. I see some resumes now. You don't see guest star, co-star. You just see the series and then the director. So you almost assume if they're being submitted for a guest star that that's probably what they've done, but it's not always the case. Just a couple of actor friends of mine have started to do that, and I think it's sort of ingenious. But no, I think you have to be tricky, and maybe Lee maybe mentioned this before too. If it's a co-star and you haven't done a co-star in 2-3 years, you can always say no. You don't have to take that job. We want the best actor for that role. I'd love to be able to get a guest star actor for a 10-line role if he wants to do it. I'll probably ask to have that. It upgrades the entire project, but you don't have to say yes, and I completely understand as a casting director, if you say no, I get it. It's the same reason why an actor will pass on a movie, for the money's not right or whatever it is. I get it. We're always going to aim high, but we're not going to hold it against you. I don't.
There are casting directors probably, God bless you, there are casting directors out there who probably do make judgments based on whether you've done a lot of co-stars or not. Let's be honest. They do. Because we're looking for some way of decoding your resume to have some sense of how much experience you have. So sometimes we do it, sometimes we don't. I think it just depends on whether or not we know you already or if we're just trying to find out about you. It depends.
I'll let you in on a little secret that it took me about 20 years to learn. There is one word that is an aphrodisiac in this town, and that word is no. You say you're not available. I've had at least 2 or 3 times where I've been asked, look, would Lee just please come do this as a favor? It's just a co-star. No. And then the next day, hey, it's a guest star now. We're going to do it. It's guest star billing. Can Lee come do it? Oh, okay. I mean, you say no, people want you. They start panting. It's like, am I right? I mean, isn't it like no is like a turn on for
depends.
producers?
It depends.
But a lot.
It depends.
All right, Cheyenne wants.
Lee has a lot of experience, and everyone in town, as we know, we've known each other since Musket days. Musket days. What is
I like that. That's great. I'm going to use that.
You know, and so we all know how good she is. So yes, if she says no, it works. If someone who is a completely unknown actor says no, there are 5,000 other unknown actors right
That's true.
behind them.
That's true.
And that's the problem.
Cheyenne wants to know, are the looks for TV changing much, or is it pretty much the same old, same old? I guess that means, well, it seems to me like it's not quite as cookie cutter as it used to be. There's a variety now that takes place on.
Depends on the network too. You know, if you're doing a CW show, there's a certain expectation. You know, Vampire Diaries, there's a certain look, and the old WB shows. But I think I'd like to think more and more shows are getting sort of more interesting actors, more character-driven visuals. I prefer those shows. I prefer to cast those shows.
Cindy wants to know, would it be better to have a selection of looks, types of headshots to submit, or one strong looks like you headshot?
I think I've already given my opinion about this, so.
Yeah, I don't think you need a bunch of headshots. I think, you know, what Rick said is absolutely correct. You know, have a headshot taken of yourself where it shows some personality and helps us think of you for the right role, the role that you think you might be marketable for. You don't need to have a tennis racket or a skillet. Remember the old 80s and early 90s, those composite shots? You know, give us a little credit that we have some imagination, but it needs to have some personality.
Or you can be like me and have your last headshot be taken in 1996, but that's just me. All right. Helene wants to know, what percentage of roles in general are already pre-cast, e.g. producer's daughter, etc., compared to what actually gets cast?
Well, we wouldn't put it out on Breakdown if most of the time. Not always, but most of the time that's actually true. We wouldn't waste our time. Here's the thing. The moment we put out a Breakdown, we get 40 phone calls, right? So the truth is now, if we know that the role is going to be cast, we just don't bother putting it out on Breakdown these days. So sometimes we find out 3 days later that the director's got a friend, and the director's friend should play the role, or the producer's got someone that he really wants to keep in mind. But most of the time, if it goes out on Breakdown, in my situations, it's out there because we're actually searching for the role.
But I find these days a lot of times it's the new thing is they put a pin in you. You're on Watch and Advise, and I sometimes follow up to see that show because I'm curious. And I would say most of the time, if the pin falls out of me, it's because a famous person, quote unquote, has taken the role. It's not usually like another one of me on there. It's like, oh, okay, I was the pin in case they couldn't make the deal with the famous person. I mean, wouldn't you say that happens a lot?
You know, it happens at all levels, too. There are people with less experience than you whose agent calls them and says, we have a pin in you, and then they look and see Lee Garlington up there. You know.
Cameron wants to know.
Tom Cruise was going to moderate tonight, but he couldn't make it. Sorry, Tom. Didn't mean to give it away, but...
How
He's in a car wreck.
Cameron wants to know, how do you feel about the various casting director workshops? Do you go to them? Do you allow your associates to go? Do you use the workshops to look for new talent?
Yes, yes, and yes. I mean, I don't have an opportunity to teach when I'm in my at my work. I don't have time to work with actors. And this gives me a little opportunity to actually work and spend some time with 15, 16 actors for 3 hours and work on scenes. And that's sometimes why I don't release breakdowns, because I can keep a file of actors that might be right for supporting roles that I can draw right from my files for, so I don't need to release a breakdown and get 1,500 submissions on people I don't know. I can pull 8 or 10 actors out of my files, bring them in, and I know one's going to nail it. And my associate, I allow to do them because for the same reason. She can bring in people that help us cast quickly.
I used to not go to them at all I didn't like them. I was really against the concept of them. Then my associate reminded me that I used to be a teacher, that I started as a teacher before I got into this business. I taught college literature. I taught at Columbia, I taught at NYU, then I got fed up with the academic world. And what he told me was there was something I had to offer, and then the other thing I learned very quickly was that you guys really need to be deprogrammed.
In terms of?
Deprogrammed. In terms of what you think about the power that you don't have, that you do have, in terms of the notions that you have about what we're like, about what we're looking for, the photographs, the power that you have to actually create stuff now, that there's a world out there that the studios don't want us to know about, which is that the digital world is opening up so many opportunities for actors to get together and to, take $500, and pool, get 5 people in this room to each throw in $500, and you've got a web series. Maybe you've got a movie. Look at Sunday's New York Times, the arts and leisure section. It's a really important article in there about people making movies for very little money. So that you guys have a lot of power that the studios and the networks, the executives don't want you to know about. And but something's been happening over the years that makes you think that you have no power. And is that for me? So I've been teaching on occasion lately, and I think it's helpful. This deprogramming is, I think, really important, and it just takes too long to go into now, but it really is important that you guys see that. I think to simply have someone say to you, "Oh, that was nice," you can do that by walking in. See, one of the things I believe is that you, between 5:30 and 7 o'clock every night, you should be stopping by 3 or 4 casting offices, and you should walk in and just drop off your picture and resume. And it doesn't cost you any money other than gas. So you don't need to go to a casting workshop to meet the casting director. Somewhere around 6:30, that person's scrambling to fill a session that's going to be tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. And who knows? You go to 20 places, you might get 3 auditions out of it.
I know that the quote-unquote party line here at the Screen Actors Guild has been, casting director workshops are bad. Nobody should have to pay to meet a casting director, yada, yada, yada. The Screen Actors Guild Foundation gives you opportunities to meet casting directors for free. However, my experience of casting directors is they work their butts off. They get paid. Sometimes it's disgraceful, the amount of money they get paid, in a bad way, like not enough. And you do not pay anymore to meet a casting director. You go to a workshop. It has to be a teaching experience. I don't begrudge casting directors any money they can make in any way. I mean, to me, they're some of the hardest working people in show business. And I'm not just saying that because there's 2 of them sitting next to me. And it doesn't, if you're going to go to, hey, Tom Schlamo is a casting director, let's go to the workshop. That means nothing if you don't know who that casting director is or what they cast. But if Junie Lowry's assistant's assistant is teaching, is doing one, and she has 3 shows on television that you think you're right for, go to it. If Juliet Taylor was coming out here from New York, who I think is a fabulous casting director, and I don't know her, and she was going to charge me $500 to buff her shoes for 15 minutes, I would do it in a heartbeat. Because A, I have the money, and B, it would be worth it to me. But it's like, it's your business hat. There's so many people in this town who will tell you, give me your money, I will help your career. And about 1% of them are going to. You have to be smart. Assuming most of you are not trust fund babies, you have to think about where you're going to spend your money. Go to the casting director. You can IMDb casting directors and find out what they have worked on, what they are working on. Is this a person you want to get to know better?
And be smart about that, too. I mean, not every casting director, associate, or assistant teaches. It's very rare when you have a casting director who understands actors or come from an acting background or have that process as an actor. You decide, listen, I'm going to pay my money to meet an office, and maybe I'll learn something. Maybe the very minimal is I'll get my face in front of them. Those of us who take it seriously in terms of going into teach, we really enjoy working with actors and discovering new talent. But you can't always expect that. So check it out. Ask around. Find out who's doing a workshop, how good they are. You know, they just give you an under 5 scene and say thank you very much and get out of there. Because I suspect some may do that. You know, some may be in it for the few bucks. You want to check it out and make sure that you go into a respected office, an office that's doing a lot of work, an office with a good reputation, who's got a good associate, and maybe stay away from assistants and just stick with the associates and the casting directors.
E.P. McKnight wants to know, should an actor seek a general audition to share their talents? Does that happen anymore? Do casting directors still do generals?
I have when people have called me about it, yeah. But depends on what you're going to bring in.
And how about the postcards that some actors send out? Do those work? Is it good?
Yeah, I don't get any hard mail anymore. Remember, we used to get all stacks of those photographs. We don't get that anymore. So, you know, when I get like a little bundle of postcards, it's like, it's cool. You know, I get, it's like mail, you know, so I go through
I'm
that.
thinking
I'm doing a play.
I'm thinking of doing a collage. Yeah.
Cool.
Black Dahlia Theater presents the world premiere of
Great.
What's your take on non-union actors submitting for projects without representation? Does that happen?
I'm sure it's great for non-union projects.
It depends on how creepy the photograph is.
Well, vampire. Now that's another
You know
thing.
what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
seriously, there are people, again, young actors, people who are not in the union. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody starts out somewhere, you know, and that's okay. It just depends on, again, if there's a role that's a small role, way in, someone has an interesting look or face, someone's trained. You know, about 15 years ago, Screen Actors Guild changed the rules about Taft-Hartley. They no longer, it used to be you had to prove all sorts of rules about getting people into the union. So it was much more difficult to hire people who were not SAG. Now, all we need to do is send a picture and resume, for the most part, that shows that the person is actually trained, has done some training, really intends to be a professional in the business, and it's not just the niece or nephew of the producer. And so I think it's all about what kind of training you've done, what kind of preparation. Well, everyone here is in SAG, right? So,
Yes.
So it's a kind of it's a really unimportant question, isn't it?
Except for my friend Sally from Wilmington, Delaware. But other
Sally,
than
you have
her.
a really interesting face. I'll get you in tomorrow for final episode of 24. No,
That is so not fair.
that was a joke.
She's the only non-actress here, and you're going to give her a role. Yeah, it's just a joke. Really.
New Zealand. Go to New Zealand.
Right.
It's much more fun.
I have a question here from Ron, but I'm not sure I understand it. Is it appropriate to ask how you're framed prior to the audition? Framed? What is that? Oh, got it. All right, I'm stupid.
Sure it is.
Yeah.
Remember we were talking about keeping the sides right under frame? I mean, that's one of the reasons you would ask that, to see how tight it is, just so you can figure out where to put your sides to. And
Yeah, but
it's
that
important.
implies something kind of dangerous and part of the deep programming that I'm dedicated to continuing. You guys think that there's some mark that, you know, you have to stand on and that you have to stay still. And so I actually was teaching a class about 2 months ago, and my assistant was in the room. And she had actually just finished working on Human Target with Deb, with my partner, Debbie Manwiller. And somebody said something about not moving. You can't move during that when you're auditioning. And I said, oh, really? They've got this thing. It's amazing, this invention. This thing on the tripod. It's called panning and tilting. You can move. And then I turned to my assistant, I said, tell me about the two people who got the two guest star roles. I didn't know. And I said, did they move, or did they move during their auditions, or did they stay still? She said, oh, they moved. And I followed them, panning and tilting. So again, everybody has this presumption that you have to stay still. We very often have people, assistants, we have readers, we have a lot of actors who want to come in and help, and they'll run the camera sometimes just so they can sit in. And they actually can pan and tilt. And if the role calls for you to move, or if you move really well, or if you're, you know, for any reason, moving seems more appropriate than not moving, you should move. And that is a footnote to the issue about how you're framed, because they're related.
Sarah, are you panning and tilting? Just want to make sure. We're just locked. Okay, that's the way it is.
I'm going to move now.
Well, that's and that brings up a point too, like the whole issue of touching the casting director during an audition. If it's, I mean, like the whole thing about throwing something, how loud do you yell? I mean, do you think it's just like common sense dictates what is and isn't appropriate? You just have to rely on your common sense?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've had some, quite a well-known actor come in and throw things. And he actually hit one of our camera person with a videotape that he pushed off the wall and almost hit the director, and director just wanted to keep it rolling. I was ready to sort of stop it at that moment because I thought this guy was really out of control. But I think that's relatively rare. I think you have to use common sense on that.
I didn't
Or
think
just ask
Kevin
permission
Spacey
to.
did that stuff anymore, but I don't know. Kidding.
It was
I think destroying furniture is a bad idea generally. I think one guy came in, the very first television show I did was Santa Barbara, and they put me in a room that had no window, and this guy came in and shook up a beer and then opened it, and it ended up on the carpet, and for the next 6 weeks the room smelled of bad beer, stale beer. He didn't get a call back.
There you go. Connie Hunter wants to know, I love this. What is the worst question you have ever been asked?
That one.
Connie, you set yourself up.
Will you marry me, I think was the... Yeah.
All right, Leanne wants to know, where do you go see plays or showcases? I do not have representation, and I'm trying to get in front of agents and casting directors in reputable theaters and showcases in town. Can you recommend some, or is that allowed? That's...
Wow. Well,
You want to think about it? I will tell you that I think it's okay because then there may be theaters that I don't mention that might be terrific. I know that the Elephant Theater I've written and directed 9 plays, and I tend to do them there, and the work's beautiful and the spaces are great, and Dave Fofi's a maniac, but he's great, and so the work tends to be very good there. It's won the Drama Critics Award, I think, 2 years in a row for Best 99-seat theater. There are other really great theaters, obviously, where you can go. Tim Robbins has got a great theater. I think the Black Dahlia's got a good theater. They do.
Open Fist Theater.
Open Fist is a really good theater. They tend to do more classical plays and more classical productions.
The Odyssey?
The Odyssey can do some good work, although, again, it depends. There are some rentals, and you just don't know the quality. I think it just depends on, you just got to get out there and go to the theater. You can get into these theaters, Gold Star, I think you can get in for $5 or something, or really cheaply, and go find out. Go find the theaters that are doing work that you respect.
Antaeus is good.
Antaeus tends to be
Backstage
good,
West,
yes.
they have those Drama Critics awards every year. Follow those. Go to see those shows. Track the
LA Ovation Awards.
LA Ovation Awards. Track the directors. They're usually directors that work all the time in LA. Those are the directors you want to work with.
Yeah, the Fountain Theater is good. I've never done anything
right.
there, but right, the Fountain Theater is
Yes,
very good.
very good. But I will say, unfortunately, this play I'm doing now, literally, I think is my 30th play in LA. I did one play that went for 22 months, and it's how my career began. But it really was only because it went for 22 months, and there was a TV star who was in the lead. If a play in this town has to get legs before the people you want to have come see from the producing, directing end are going to hear about, it's got to filter up. And that's the only unfortunate problem, is it really has to run for a while if you're thinking it's going to do anything for your career. However, for your soul, for your heart, for your craft, I get to play all sorts of roles on stage that I will never get to play on film because I'm not famous enough. So it's an opportunity to really, hone your craft.
Go to the Taper. The Taper's got... when I was casting for the Taper, they required every month we did members of Actors Equity. Once a month we had auditions for them, and we also had meetings for non-equity, for people who were just in SAG. So there's some kind of community requirement that I think that the Taper has to adhere to. I'm sure they have some sort of an open call policy Same's probably true of the Geffen. The same's probably true of all the major theaters that are in Los Angeles, whichever ones are left.
And we tend to go to theater that's recommended to us by friends, and there's a lot of good theater, and there's a lot of bad theater in town as well too. And like Lee says, if you want to just work out and get a good workout, and we don't need to watch you sweat, we don't need to necessarily go see that show if it's a good workout for you guys. But if it's something that you want to be showcased or seen in, follow the directors, try to get into a cast where there are some maybe well-known or better-known actors who have good agents, because those agents will come see that show. Those agents will see you in that show, and you might get a manager and agent out of that as well too.
And always try to do a play that they want to make into a movie. That really helps too. All right, I'm going to attempt to read this, but it is the smallest print I've ever seen in my life. Marie wants to know, for some of these smaller co-star roles, if we do it once and you're putting it on tape and you say terrific, is it a bad idea to say, would you like to try it again? Would you like me to see it do it in a different way?
Terrific usually means thank you very much. When we are busy, we don't want to get into a debate about, you know what I mean, if we've got a room full of people. So we say terrific, thank you. If we needed you to do it again, we'll ask you.
Yes.
If you do tape more than one tape in an audition, do you keep them all on the tape for the director or just the ones you liked?
I think it depends. Sometimes we edit them together. Sometimes I want to see it a different way, and then I edit it later, or I cut something out. It just depends. If a cast director gives you some direction and wants to see it a different way, that's great. It's a lifeboat. Jump on it and take that. Don't worry about that. That'll be our call, and trust that we'll pick the best take.
Do you ever erase actors from your tape after they leave the room? Oh, yes. I'll
All the
answer
time.
that one.
No.
Oh, you're lying. I did this once. When I was being put on tape for the ones that they were sending to somebody, I started asking the casting directors, and they generally said about 20 to 50% of the people they look at actually get up to the director.
It's just what we do is we star the people that we think they should look at. That's what we do. We star the people that are the best people.
All right, Julia wants to know, what is the most important thing a young actor, 18, can do who has a list of credits in another country, Australia, and is now living in L.A.? Not to get too specific or anything.
I think the same thing an 18-year-old actor from this country does. They get the lay of the land here. They start to train. They get a sense of maybe how television and film is slightly different here, the way it's shot, or than it is in Australia. They network. They get to know as many people as they can, and is that kind of the question?
Yeah, and they learn how to do an American accent, because
Yes.
it really is important, because we are a slightly xenophobic country. We don't like, you all know what that means. And we don't necessarily love, we're not open to casting people with strange, what Americans might consider to be strange accents. So sometimes you need to be able to speak in a neutral American accent.
And if you are Australian, have that American accent when you walk in the room. From the very beginning, I think. Come in there with the American accent, read it in an American accent, and then switch back to your native tongue. And I'm always surprised when I see an actor from a different country come in with a just spot-on American accent that I didn't know was from a different country necessarily, and then they just, flung it on us, and I think it's kind of magic.
Again, it's the Olympics, so I'm open to an actor who may not have the accent down, coming in showing me how good he or she might be with his or her normal accent, and then if I really love their acting and they're really right for the role, they can come in the next day with the right accent. The problem is, again, we're in the Olympics, and if you come in and you do a brilliant job, but you don't have a perfect American accent, in the next 3 hours, I'll see someone who will be just as good as you, who can do it in a neutral American accent.
Breon Kennedy of Detroit, Michigan wants to know, what is the best way to become a member of SAG? First, stay in Detroit. It's a really good place to be right now. Anything else?
Do you all understand what she meant by that? Is there anyone who doesn't understand why
Lot of
she said
filming
stay in
going on
Detroit?
in Detroit right
There's
now.
a 40% tax break for the state of Michigan right now, so a lot of production companies are moving their productions out of Los Angeles and doing them in Michigan, the state of Michigan. However, that is not as true as it used to be. There are a lot of problems with that tax incentive, and so it may not continue. So do not start looking for real estate in Detroit yet.
And don't be in such a rush to join the union right away. Well, it's a little late for you all. But for Amy and
There's a lever that they're going to pull, and Paul's just going to drop down.
Right. Like the Ellen Show.
All right. Bashan wants to know, how does someone whose agent has tried to get an appointment for a client but has failed get in to see you or get you to see their work?
Yahoo Maps.
Margaritas.
No, not margaritas. It's called Yahoo Maps. You know, Google Maps.
Go to the office, he's saying. Stop by the office.
And if my door's locked, please just go to Rick's office.
When you go to Paul's office, just say, Rick Pagano told me you were the nicest casting director and that everything you've done, that you're just absolutely brilliant. By the way, when you go and stop off at casting offices, you please tell them that Rick Pagano said that they were absolutely the nicest casting director in the world, really. I'd like to see what happens. But don't stay long. Yeah. It's really important. Just say, I happen to be in the neighborhood. I'm just dropping off a picture and resume. So nice to meet you. Bye. You leave the room quickly, and you leave the building slowly.
That's great. I love that.
Do you understand why? And the other thing is, always have your phone number. You'd be amazed how many people give us resumes that don't have a contact number, an agency contact number or phone number. Always have your phone number on the resume, because if 20 minutes later we look at that picture and go, shit, it's 7:30, I need someone for this role for tomorrow morning. That actor that just walked in, get him, get him. And the assistant goes, I can't, there's no phone number on the resume. Happens a lot.
Well, Google Maps. Find out where they live.
Google Maps, yeah, there you go. We'll call 411 to find you.
I would just call Rick's office because they'll be there in 10 minutes.
I do want to say one thing earlier, too, about I have always been one of those actors who says, would you like to see it another way? And it hasn't really gotten in if they say no, don't go, yes, no, but please, really. No, don't insist. But I have also, don't offer to do something a different way if you can't. I'm really good at direction. I can change on a dime. But if you're really attached to the way, don't offer to do it a different way. Have them give you direction and then do exactly what you did. Bad idea.
Can I just say something about that, because it's it's related. There's one of these things that actors love to do, which really does bug me, and it's they walk in, they go, "Is there anything in particular that you're looking for?" And I always want to say, "Yeah, good and fast," because it's such a lazy person's way to. It's such a lazy thing to say to me. It means you haven't done the work. You haven't walked in and said, look, I've looked this over. I could do it this way or this way, and get very, very specific about the choices you might make. Because then I can actually answer. I can respond to you in an intelligent way. But when you walk in and say, is there anything in particular you're looking for? I just want to throw you out of the room immediately.
See, now those are the kind of things I would mark that down. Put that in your Rick Pagano file. That's a good thing to know.
It's lazy.
Whereas Paul
It's
really
lazy.
enjoys it when you ask that question.
I don't get. Thank God, I don't get that much anymore. I think people. Are you still getting that?
I still get it. So.
Although along that line, there are certain parts that you audition for that are so neutral, like when you're doing a CSI or a Law and Order, a part that's just absolutely filler material to get to the next
Well, that
thing.
means we're not sure what we're looking for. I mean, that's what we expect you guys to do, because it is kind of maybe a generic role, and it's going to be a look, a quality, a moment that you bring to that under 5, which they're difficult to audition for,
So
that another actor doesn't have.
But it's not necessarily like going, okay, I'll be really different. I'll play against what's written here. Even though I'm supposed to be crying, I'll yell. Even though I'm supposed to yell, I'll, you want to just sort of go generally, put your mark on it, but you want to do
you want to
what's
serve
indicated.
the material. I
Right.
mean, it's not, if you're playing the guy who delivers a pizza, the pilot's not called Pizza Boy. You're just one moment. You've got to figure out what your stature is within the entire piece.
Yeah.
And just play to that, and keep it simple. You know.
Why did the writer write the scene? Why did they not cut the scene out? And why did they give it to you? Think about those three questions.
And as an example, I once auditioned for Reitman the Senior. Ivan Reitman, who was directing a movie called Evolution, and I was auditioning for a reporter, and there was like chaos was happening behind me, and I said to him, there's like 3 completely different ways you can do this. I didn't get any further than that. And he said, do them. And I was like, thank God I actually had 3 different ways, and I did 3 completely different auditions. He laughed hysterically through all of them. I got cast in the part. It comes to the day of. I start way number 1. He comes running up to the set. No, don't do that. I start way 2. No. He wanted it absolutely bland and neutral. He did not want anything interesting that I'd come up with. And that's my job, is to serve the piece, But having, said that, I got the part, because your job is to get the job, And then you serve. Unless you're Meryl Streep or Halle Berry or Denzel Washington, the chances are you're not the person that the story is about. And you're, in my opinion, and tell me what you guys think, you're there to serve either the writer, the director, or the producer. Your job is to do what they want you to do. Yes? No? Rick's thinking.
Well, it depends. It's a slippery slope. You have to also try to serve your art, but you have to make sure you're serving your art in a way that's appropriate. They're right. They're both right. You can't make it all about. It's not a story about a guy delivering pizza. On the other hand, you want to keep it simple. On the other hand, you don't want to simply phone it in.
Here's a good one from Anita. If an actor does not have credits yet, do casting directors give much validity to custom-made demo reels not made from actual credits? Like you've come up with the scene and you've shot it?
It's hard. They're so good now. And the equipment is all the digital camera. I mean, they're shooting with the digital stuff that you can buy yourself now. It's hard to tell sometimes if you're doing something you put together. 5 or 10 years ago, they had these little companies that would make these little demo reels. We didn't like to see those, but once in a while now I'm seeing things that I'm not even sure. I mean, they're an independent film as far as I'm concerned, so they can be pretty artful these days, how you can put those together.
Rick from Burbank, I think we already answered your question. John wants to know, what advice can you give to a 9-year-old kid who is just starting out? What is the best way to get an opportunity to audition?
Play baseball.
Really good advice.
Do you understand? Is he out there?
This was
Go be a kid.
Oh.
Go live a life. Don't become one of those little zombie children who can only be an actor. Have a real life, and then you'll have something to tap when you want to act.
Or
If it's
soccer.
or if you're a girl, go be a ballet dancer. I didn't mean to sound sexist about that, guys.
If you're a guy, do ballet. I don't care.
Okay. If I'm not asking your question, it's because it's already been answered and I'm not repeating it. How much casting is now done out of Canada versus still here in Los Angeles?
I do a lot of television that shoots in Canada. And I
Thank
think
you.
there are a lot of shows that it's just the economics, and they've established studios up there, and there are shows that, lots of shows, pilots are shot up there, and then many times the series are shot up there. It'd be great if there were more shows being shot here, but the reality is quite a bit's being shot in Canada.
And the last 3 or 4 movies I've done were shot in Canada.
Paige wants to know, I have heard, is it helpful to wear the same clothing to callbacks?
If you have time to wash them in between.
It's good. It's funny.
Really?
Or once you reach a certain age, it's like, what did I wear? I don't remember what I wore.
It's not crucial to me. It's not crucial. To some people seem to think it is. Some people are superstitious and they want to dress in the same dress or the same outfit. I think it's good to make sure you don't do anything that's so radically different. That I mean, what would I? You know what I mean? You don't want something that just stands out for being outrageous or so flamboyant that it's just wrong.
I had an actress who tested, and you know, when you go through the process, you're sometimes in that process 6, 7, 8 times. She wore the same dress every single time. She got the part.
And then she burned the dress.
Yeah. But by the 7th time, I thought, oh my God, she doesn't really. It doesn't really matter to me, but I think it gave her a certain sense of confidence. Maybe it helped her build a role. You know, it was a prop for her. It was a piece of her character that she felt really important about. Maybe she was wearing a piece of jewelry or a dress that she felt really connected to, and that helped her.
Yeah, and I mean, generally, if you're going up the ladder, if it's television, you're going to test for a pilot. If they have notes for you, I mean, I would wear the same thing if I remembered what it was, except if there are times when they called my agent and said, tell her to tone down the makeup, tell her to wear more makeup, tell her not to wear those earrings. I mean, they will give you specific notes if they want you to change something. Paige also wants to know if your hair color is different from your headshot when you walk into the audition, does that work against you? Or if you're 14 years older than the last time your headshot was taken.
That does.
Yeah. Shut up.
I like your hair.
I think it depends. You know, sometimes they may have a role where, this is mostly true for women, there's the leading lady is a brunette and they want some contrast, so they may want a blonde. And so if it is different, it's a really simple thing to say. It's a bottle away. You know?
Cash, I think it is, wants to know, do you have a specific incident where an actor wasn't quite right for the part you were casting, but that actor had such an impactful audition that you remember that actor and brought them in for another part later, or just cast them?
All the time.
All the time.
Do you guys use iActor? Francois wants to know. You know what iActor is?
Obviously, we don't use it.
Not all the time. It's a great resource. You know, all of them are great resources. I think some of us use them more than others.
What's iActor?
The Screen Actors Guild now has a place where you can put up several, like up to 8. Simon, where are you? 16 headshots, like a whole bunch of headshots, 8 headshots. You can put up your reel, and it's free for actors and it's free for casting directors and producers to come check out.
You guys have done some great PR for it, obviously.
Philip Martin wants to know, what do new new developing talent need to do in regards to workshop reels, etc., to make you guys more willing and excited to call us in? I think you've kind of answered that.
Got it?
Where's Trish? Thank you. That's so sweet. I won't say that one. All right. Marco, our looks... By the way, Meryl Streep was 2 years traveling in a circus wagon, plays... Okay.
Finish that.
Are looks really even important? I have a hard time seeing people dolly themselves up before an audition or even I'm so sorry. I don't know what this question is asking, Marco. I apologize. Can you read that one, the first one? I don't get it.
Are looks really even important? I have a hard time seeing people dolly themselves before an audition.
Oh.
Or even segmenting rage? Segmenting. Maybe.
Marco, are you here?
Yeah, rage. If you're a powerful actor, people
Rouge,
should...
I think.
Something.
Oh, is that what it is?
If you're a powerful actor, people should...
We'll go to the
First
second
word
question.
starts with?
You're spelled Y-O-U''RE, not the way it's spelled there. Sorry, guys. I used to teach English. I'm sorry. By the way, letters that I receive from people that are grammatically incorrect, they bug me. I'm sorry. It's petty. but it bugs me. Actors, you guys are the ones that you're the traveling bards. You're what's left. And if you fuck up the English language, then there's no one else out there that's going to keep it going. So you got to learn how to speak properly. You have to learn grammar. You have to do it right, because we're what's left of the culture.
You're kind of the Renaissance men and women. I mean,
Unless you're
I
on
love
the
actors.
wire, and then it's a whole other game.
But I love actors who know about art and music and history, and not just, practicing their sides. You guys need to be as well-rounded as you can, read and
Elia
write.
Kazan wrote a wonderful essay called "What It Means to Be a Director," and it's a great essay for everybody to read who wants to be an actor. It's the same information that needs to be done. And again, we're talking about pet peeves. An earlier question was, what are your pet peeves? And this is one of my pet peeves.
And I'll tell you, I don't think I've hardly ever met any actors who only do one thing artistically. Most actors they also paint, or they're musicians, or they write, or they dance, or they, tend to have multiplicity of talents. That's probably the wrong word, and Rick hates me now. Carol, who's obviously been listening, wants to know, besides Yahoo Maps, how can we get in touch regarding your upcoming classes? Do you have a website?
You can stop by our office or call the office. We've been at Paramount, but I think we're moving back over to Culver City beginning next week. So there's an office at Culver City. You can look it up, or you can just call 310-841-4322. See? It's amazing, isn't it?
Here's a good question from Tracy. Years ago when I read for you, I didn't get, this is for Paul actually, I didn't get the scene, and as a result, didn't do my best work. Do actors get called in again after that? Like if you really screw up?
Where are you? Oh, hi. Yeah, I remember you.
Uh-oh, he remembers you. You're in trouble now.
Yeah. Yeah, do you remember, was it for like Jackie Woodman?
It was for, no, it was for, I think it was Stargate, but it was like a flashback, or, I don't know.
Well,
Get the scene, obviously.
Well, I don't remember, which is great for you. It used to be that we would not forget we would rarely forget a good performance and never forget a bad one. I forget the bad ones all the time now, because there are quite a few. Either they're, well, if they're not bad, they're just mediocre and they're forgettable. So the good thing is 6 months later, I kind of bring you back, because either if I'm busy, I forget, or I give you another shot sometimes. So don't take that too seriously. Yeah, there's enough pressure as it is to come in and nail it. So, we usually I bring actors back. Yes, she is. She won't bring you back, but I will. No.
And I'll give you an example. The play I'm doing, Forgiveness at the Black Dahlia, until April 11th. A wonderful casting director, Joseph Middleton, came the other night. And the last time I saw Joseph, he called me in for a pilot, and I was going to be playing a character in a wheelchair who couldn't do anything for herself. And I had the microphone already attached to me, and I said, well, who's playing the husband? And he named the actor, who is probably the only person, it happens to be somebody I loathe and detest, who shall remain nameless. And I undid my mic, and I said, I'm sorry, I cannot read for this role. I would never, ever work with this person. And I got up and I left, and I sort of explained a little bit why. Never heard from Joseph again. Have never been called in. It's been like 2 years. And I saw him at the play, and I said, I went, oh my God, and I sort of told him the story, and he goes, I don't even remember that. Had no memory of it. And I said, but you never called me in again. He goes, I haven't had anything right for you. I haven't been doing this or that. Had nothing, had absolutely no memory.
It's what I was saying earlier. It's really and truly not all about you.
Alex wants to know, do you submit a lot of breakdowns on Actors Access, LA Casting, etc., for actors without agency representations to put themselves out there to be discovered?
Well, yeah, when we put it on a breakdown, I think, what do we have to open? My associates do this. I don't do this, but I think we open it up to people on Actors Access, right? You can have that choice. Is that how it works?
Yeah, I think
I don't
they're
know.
different services, so sure, you can. And
We've got. I know. I've gotten them.
try
I've
to.
seen people that say Actors Access on the underneath the picture.
Somebody wants to know, how often do you utilize IMDb? Do you refer to that much?
Every 5 minutes.
All the time. All the time.
Okay. Bonnie wants to know, why is it that when you come to Las Vegas, you do all or most of your casting from the LA? You know, we just went over this with Hawaii. I don't know. You cast out of Las Vegas, don't you?
I've done a couple of things that shot there. We did cast locally.
All right. Hawaii, Las Vegas, welcome to the 21st century. Did you say earlier that one should be as strong as if you were auditioning for a stage piece? I seem to come off too strong or too big for the camera. Would you clarify? I am an animated type like Barney on Mayberry. What's your advice for me?
There is no substitute for thinking, okay? There's no substitute for intelligence. We are talking about calibrations. We are talking about different dials on the stereo, if you will. In other words, you can still have a really intense and powerful emotion, but you don't have to send it all out to the back row, but you can still have a really intense, powerful emotion. Very often, actors with theatrical backgrounds, with too much, say, graduate work at some of the great training programs, have not learned how to let the camera come to them. It's as simple as just letting the camera come to you. But it doesn't mean that the intensity of the emotion is any less. Does that make any sense? Whoever asked it?
Yeah, all the homework you guys do, it's the same homework for stage and television and film. It's all about doing all that hard, bloody, detailed detective work that you need to do to creatively reveal that character. However, it's about scale. I think that's a great image. Have that camera come to you. What I end up seeing is actors flatten the performance so much they try to do nothing, and then that's what I get is nothing. And stage actors sometimes overcompensate by trying to do so little that great actor that I just saw do Hamlet up at Ashland, you know, it's a flat performance. So it's just about learning.
He's so right that I just second what he just said. It's so true.
But I will also say, in my experience, having done, I think I've done somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 films, and I've done 3,000 million television shows and a lot of theater. They are different styles of acting. You know, I once got a recurring role on a series that I thought was going to be the bomb. It was going to be the new big hit. And there was a movie star who had the lead, and I was going to play his ex-wife. And I went onto the set about a half hour before I was going to be called to set, and I watched for about 10 minutes, and I went back to the makeup trailer and I said, this show is never going to go, because there was not one person on that set who was willing to rein in the movie star and say, hey, sweetie, love you, but in television you don't get 120 takes. You know, we're not doing 2 pages in a day, we're doing 12. They are different mediums. You have to learn how to roll with what they're, you know, every set has its own zeitgeist, every show has its own energy. You know, you go do a CSI or one of those Grey's Anatomy, you know, those shows that shoot for 17 hours a day, it's a different energy than when you go do How I Met Your Mother. You know, I mean, they're different kind of things, and you have to be able to roll with it. And sometimes, like the gentleman was saying earlier, they don't care what your preparation is. They need you to deliver the goods when they need the goods delivered. You know, and it's like you have to be able to know it's a different rehearsal process, different presentation, different style, different schedule.
Yeah, learn the tone of the shows too. CSI is small box acting. It's very specific and simple, and a lot of whispering going on camera.
A lot of low lighting.
And then you'll get half hour, and then you'll get sci-fi. You know, we on Stargate and some of the space. It's Shakespeare in space. You know, and you need to be able to compete with the scenery and have the language is more mythical, and you need to be able to support that. And the style is a little bit different. So watch those shows. You can watch shows online now. I mean, you can get educated like you never could before.
But you can also, I mean, if your part is basically saying, would you like fries or Caesar salad, and that's what the line is, don't spend 7 hours preparing for it. You can overthink these things, you know. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. They just want you to, like Rick said earlier, you're serving the plot. You're giving information. That's what the scene is
scary.
about.
I tell you, when I was an actor, the pre-reads would be easy. The callbacks would be hard.
Why?
Because the pre-read, you just sort of came in, you just sort of do it. You kind of throw it away. Then you go home and you have got an under 5 and you hire a coach, you know, and all of a sudden your character has polio and You know, you do all this home, and then you come in, and it's all so, like you said, it's so.
Yeah, we have a
thought.
saying. We have a saying, and it happens especially with kids. Someone comes in for a callback, and you know, and they're not good, and we always turn and we go, "They got to him. They got to him. The coaches got to him." You know what? It has to do with, you know, the inner game of tennis has a really interesting paragraph. I don't remember what page it's on, but about how the importance of speeding up the game in order to stop the mind. That the mind gets in the way of the instrument. And this is true for people with a lot of training, especially. You start to think, and the thinking, you know, when you're acting, you're up and you're in the middle of the audition, and then suddenly your mind goes, I'm in the middle of an audition. Oh my God. I'm in a callback. I think they like me. Now, while your mind is starting to say those things to you, your acting is going down the tubes. Your mind has no place in that process. And so sometimes the most important thing you can do in an audition is just to speed up. And that's not to speed up for the sake of speed because TV people like speed or movie people like speed. Sometimes you have to speed up enough to turn the brain off and turn the instincts on. That's why so many people do badly in callbacks, because the brain gets in the way of the actual instincts that are what got you to the callback in the first place.
And you do your thinking while the casting director is saying the line. Don't pause and think and then say your line. You've already paused and thought while they were saying their line. You just respond, you know, like you would in real life. Lee, who have you studied with? Oh. I have studied Delia Salvi at UCLA, which I went to for a year and a half when I was 29 years old, and 30 plays. That's been my study. OJT. What is it like for you as a casting director when you are between jobs and you're seeking your next opportunity? Do you do a lot of drugs? No, I added that part. I'm kidding. Are there times that you have to accept a project that you may not be proud of, but you accept it because you need to pay the bills? Good question, Henry from Denver.
The answer is yes. And it's taken a lot of therapy to get to that point. Sometimes you just have to realize that casting, you know, and sometimes you can do work. Sometimes the work that you're really proud of is work that nobody sees. Sometimes the movies that are big hits or the TV shows that are big hits are things you're not particularly proud of. And you have to realize that if you're the writer or the director, it's one thing. But if you're the casting director, you're, you know, again, there's a certain amount of investment that we put into it, but ultimately we aren't the writer-director. We're not the creators of the shows, and so we have a job to do.
It's just like you guys. You know, I mean, I could ask that question of actors, and you probably would say the same thing. You know, sometimes you do the job because you need the job, and you still bring integrity to the work, but you realize it may not win an Emmy or an Oscar. I should run for governor.
All right. Tina wants to know, how important are reels? Have you ever cast directly from a reel?
Yeah, my producers do all the time. Some of my producers never see you in the room.
Well, I think they mean an acting reel as compared to an audition on tape.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
Generally not. We're not going to cast someone just on the basis of a reel.
Unless you're a well-known actor.
Unless you're a well-known actor.
And then we offer you the role, and we want to just see your work or be reminded of it.
And, you know, just from the actor's point of view, too, there's a lot of time when I was younger, I was willing to do a big part in a really horrible thing because I thought the big part was important. And as I've aged, I'm so much more interested in being in something good, and I'll do a little tiny part to be a part of something that I'm proud of. You know, just because I think it's like, it makes me feel better about myself. But that's also, you know, you have to have a certain amount of financial freedom before, you know, when you got to pay the bills, you got to pay the bills. But I know personally, for me, I would rather say, would you like fries or Caesar salad in a restaurant to somebody than do certain things that, I mean, I will say no. You know, and one of the great ways I've found to say no in this town is you say offer only. That's the same as saying no, because they're not going to offer it to you, you know, and you just, you know, you can say, I'm not going to tell you no, I'm not going to turn you down, I'm just going to say, gee, offer only. But that did backfire once. I got the offer. It was horrible. James wants to know, is the casting process the same for motion capture performances as traditional film and TV? Good question, James.
I don't know of any TV. Are there TV shows out there that do motion capture? But I've done a couple of movies that have been motion capture. Are we allowed to talk about movies?
Sure. I say yes.
You say it is the same?
I say yes, you
Oh,
can
you're
talk
saying-
about it.
No, it's very different. Motion capture is very different. We need people who can move really well. We have in the case of the one I was doing, I needed people who looked like Gwyneth Paltrow and Angelina Jolie and Jude Law. And so it had to do with getting the right size, and then it had to do with them being able to move and do certain things. So it really wasn't the same. There wasn't a lot of dialogue involved. It was really mostly movement.
All right, then. What do you think are the differences between casting in LA and casting in New York? This is Christy from New York City. Hi, Christy.
Enjoying the rain.
I think that's not actually the
go?
answer to
I
the
actually
question.
I actually just did some casting in New York, and it's a lot of people are very trained. There is more of a tendency for there's more of a tradition for doing theater. There's a little bit of a tendency to people wanting to send it out, so you have to sort of tell them to tuck it in a little bit, let the camera come to you. You have to give them a couple notes. The ones that are bad enough that you just say terrific and you let them leave. I think in LA the actors are much more skilled. I really do.
I do too for television and film.
Yeah.
They're just better people out here working and training and projecting.
Vanessa wants to know, when you are told, I'm going to, when you are told you are on hold for a project, what are the general chances that you will actually book it? How many people do casting directors generally put on hold for a role? That's a good question. Are there 17 of us on hold for any role? Do all of us, are 17 people pinned?
In commercials, it tends to. I only did a couple commercials because after I did Alien Resurrection, the guy who directed the documentary about McNamara that won, Errol Morris. Errol Morris makes a living doing commercials, so Errol called me up and wanted me to do some commercials. You'll put 3 or 4 people on hold for commercials, but in television or movies, it's one person usually.
Yeah, one maybe a backup. I mean, I worked for Sheila Manning for a while when I was doing commercials, and we would put, there'd be 5, 7, 8 people sometimes on hold, but television, it tends to be, you really want that one actor and maybe a backup if you're lucky.
So really, every time I'm put on, I have a pin in me, I'm the only one?
Yeah.
Boy, it's really depressing then when you don't get it. Jeez. Would it be more helpful to move to Canada from Los Angeles to audition for all the work up there?
Not unless you're Canadian. I mean, if you're Canadian, and same with Canadian actors. I tell Canadian actors all the time, don't come down here.
Absolutely, stay there.
Don't pull your punches, Lee. Tell
Yeah,
us what you
right,
really
right.
think.
No, it's truly a national thing. You have to be dual citizen to be able to work in both countries. And if you're Canadian, you can't work here. And if you're an American, you can't move to Canada and try to get work as a local.
But actually, I meant it in the way that right now, if I were living in Detroit, I would not be coming to LA with the amount of work that's coming there, because if they can cast locally in any situation they want to. Because we are generally, it's going to be more expensive to cast an actor from LA than it is to cast locally anywhere else they're shooting it.
And it used to be that we only thought about small roles locally, but now because of videotape and how easy it is to upload video onto and send it out, if someone's really wonderful and they're in from Canada or wherever, we can cast them. So sometimes we're looking for really good actors from God knows where.
Wes
Alicia Cuthbert in 24 was from Canada. She's from a small town in Canada, and we cast her off tape.
Oh, really?
Well, we
Oh,
didn't
that's
cast her
cool.
off tape. We saw her, and she beat out everybody that was in L.A., and we ultimately flew her in and tested her to play Jack's daughter.
Because he's Canadian too.
Wes wants to know, do you consider stunt players for acting roles? Not stunt casting, but actual stunt performers.
Generally, I'm going to have somebody's going to come flying at me any minute, right? In general, stunt performers have not traditionally been as good actors as actors who spend more time acting. But again, there are exceptions. There are people who do stunts and also are good actors. If you're a good actor, we'd be happy to do it.
Oh, here's a good one from Vanessa, from somewhere out in internet land. Sometimes you feel like you've really nailed a role, yet hear nothing. I know there are a lot of elements that affect a performance, but sometimes you just want to know what was wrong. With that said, how apprehensive are casting directors in relaying feedback to managers and agents? I think it's a time thing more than anything.
I think it is too. I mean, my first boss in television, when an agent called and I was his assistant, I said, well, what do I tell him? Why he didn't get the part? He just kind of looked at me and very dryly said, just tell him he's not the guy.
The problem is a lot of people want to get into debates with you about it, and you don't have time to get into debates about it, and ultimately it's your choice, or it's our choice. It's not the manager's choice or the agent's choice, and they love to. This just happened last week, where someone wanted to get into a debate with me, and I said, I'm sorry, they pay me for my taste. I've been doing this for 30 years. They're not paying you to tell them who to use. They're paying me, and it gets annoying. It can really become difficult sometimes. So I find it really. I don't like giving feedback to anybody other than terrific. That's what I like saying to everybody.
But
and the other thing is, you may think you did a great job, right? But that's like the high jumper the pole vaulter who jumps 17 feet, and it may be the best jump you've ever done in your life. But an hour later, someone walks in and jumps 17.5. Well, that person who jumps 17.5 is going to get the Olympic medal, not you. The person who does it better, we're not around to celebrate your career high moment. Our job is to find the best actor, regardless of whether or not, and the best actor for the role may not even have given his best work that day, but he still may be the best actor for the role. We're paid to find that. We're not paid to, in some way, reward you for doing your best work ever, even though it may be great.
And again, if there's a manager or an agent who has a good relationship with the cast director, I don't mind if they call me and say, listen, I just have started to work with this actor. Can you give me a little bit of feedback just so I can figure out how to work with him a little bit better, and let me know they're fairly new to me? Once in a while, I'll get that. I don't mind that too much, but usually it's a matter of time.
And a lot of times, I'll tell you the truth. I mean, this pilot that I made it to the studio, but not to the network, the casting director called my agent and said Lee could not have done anything better. It had nothing to do with her. It wasn't about, so much of the time, it's not about your performance. It's that you're only seeing this much of a huge tapestry that they have to fit, and there are many times you're going to do the knockout performance, but maybe you're better than the supporting actor who you're going to do the scene with, and they can't have somebody that good in that scene. I mean, literally, that can happen that way. Or you're just not pretty enough, or you're too tall, or you're too thin, or it's so impersonal. Would you agree with that?
You're never too thin.
I have Grace Paley sitting next to me. Okay. How did you, Mark wants to know, how did you cast Tracy Middendorf for 24? Is that the question? What does that mean?
Tracy Middendorf did a play that I directed back in 1997 called Mobile Hymn, which is still, to this day, one of my favorite experiences of all time. And I just loved her.
And she was also phenomenal in After the Fall.
She was phenomenal in After the Fall. I went and saw that. We stayed friends. When you direct someone, it becomes like family. But if I remember correctly, I think Debbie knew about her because of watching the play, but I didn't cast that role. Debbie brought her in, not me.
All right. And that was our moment in praise of Tracy.
Trivia.
Kim in San Diego wants to know, how often do you seek out ethnic actors for roles that don't specifically call for them? If a project describes a character as Caucasian, would you bring in an ethnic actor?
Well, I don't know if roles call for Caucasian necessarily. We usually say, please submit all ethnicities. We were having trouble casting enough ethnic actors in universe. We sort of had to go back to the well and keep looking because they wanted more ethnic actors in the show, and so did I. I think we're trying to be as colorblind as we can be. In fact, now we're almost expected to look for ethnic actors in almost every role, unless it's really specific, WASP family from Boston or something like that. Then they're going to still have an adopted black son. So yeah, we like to mix it up. I think that's the palette of our culture.
We had the pilot I just finished. One of the lead roles was, they said they wanted one of the lead roles to be a black guy, and we put an offer out to the guy, and they met, and he was all going to work out, and then at the last minute it didn't work out. He turned us down. Then suddenly, the role of Hannah, which was originally written, again, colorblind, but we had been thinking about people who were probably Caucasian, ended up going to Garcelle Beauvais, who's African American. Then, because she was African American, then suddenly we thought, well, then the other guy that we were thinking about should be African American, should be white. But no, then we thought no, and then suddenly he was going to be African American, and he was supposed to be the nephew of Malcolm McDowell, who's white. So then it got really confusing, because we then saw D.B. Woodside, who was brilliant and funny, and then they said, no, we now have like 15 African Americans in the role, and it needs to be a white guy, so now it's a white guy. And even though, frankly...
And all this was before lunch.
Oh, it's all happened like within like an hour or two. And it was just amazing, because we were just scrambling to do everything they would tell us to do, and then an hour later, everything changed. So, yes, it's frustrating, but it's good in some ways, because the networks clearly got a mandate, which is that they want more diversity, and they really made it clear. God bless you. They made it very clear, but they just didn't want it. They didn't want it to be an entirely black cast, so we had to sort of balance it out.
So in this town, for people starting out, and a lot of us may be beginning in here, would you recommend theater as much as you would recommend doing an AFI, USC, UCLA film to get something of yourself on tape? I mean, do you feel there's one particular way to go, or do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, it's as much as we love theater and I think come from that, it's a film and television town, and I think to help your career, if you're able to get an AFI film or USC film, get a good piece of tape on yourself that you can help build a reel. Those little speed reels are really valuable for us. I like to, if I don't know an actor, I click on that. 10 or 15 seconds later, I get an impression of that actor. That helps me decide whether I want to bring that actor in or not. I think you can do both, but you're here to do television and film, I think, probably more so. And theater is there to work out with. So try to get a good piece of tape on yourself.
I would just say do what you love, too. I mean, I agree with him, but I also think do what you love. There are people who make a living doing theater. Maybe they don't make a living doing theater here, but, if you fall in love with it, you might get cast. I used to cast a lot of theater out of Los Angeles for other cities. And you might find a huge career working up at Ashland, or working in Minneapolis at the Guthrie, or working in New Haven, or working at Lincoln Center by getting cast here. It just depends.
Christine Ebersole tells a wonderful story about doing some second supporting role in a wonderful television movie thing, and she was in the makeup trailer, and somebody said, well, probably now that you're getting older, there's not going to be as many roles for you. And she got up and she went in her dressing room and she closed the door, and she said to herself, I'm 32. And she left Hollywood and she went to New York and has been this enormously successful Broadway stage actor who also comes out here and does stuff all the time. I mean, there is no one path. We have one final question. I see many black, how about Hispanic Native Americans over 50 years old? We Hispanics are a major percentage of the population.
47 or 48% right now.
Of this area. So is there less casting going on in that way?
No, I think it's clearly there's as much diversity with Latinos, Asian Americans as there is with African Americans. I do. No? Well, again, it's you say no, I say yes. We'd have to look at some facts.
I think let the best actor win. I mean, we will want to be casting. You know, if we're colorblind, we still want the best actor, and if it's a Latina actor comes in and blows us away, that's fantastic. An Asian actor, we want to cast with diversity, and we just want the best actor.
But just remember that if a casting director really likes you, they should only call you in to audition for the role. That's my philosophy. Ladies and gentlemen, Simon Anthony Abu-Fidel.
Thank you, Lee.
Let's give him a big
Thank
hand.
you, Lee, Paul, Rick. Thank you so much. A quick note to our online audience. Fill out your feedback forms right below the screen. It gives us what we need in-house. Leave your feedback forms on the desk. We'll see you next week for Background 101. Learn your rights, wages, and working conditions. Thanks.
Yes.
It was fun.